Hey, and good evening, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majeski back with you here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel with your 5 o'clock update here on extremely powerful Hurricane Melissa. This one is going to go down in the record books, folks. There is a little bit of good news I'll try to share here as it's continuing that westward drift. And the further west it gets down, it kind of diminishes the impact, at least on the far eastern edge of the island. The western side still looks like it's in the crosshairs, but there's a drift to the west. Hopefully it'll keep that drift going to the west a little bit and kind of diminish the impact on Jamaica a little bit. But hopefully it'll start weakening. But this is a bad storm, one for the history books. We'll go through all the breakdown on this for you here on this update. Now, if you're coming to this update after the fact, if you like a no-nonsense approach to weather, if you like to be part of our weather family, I'd like to personally invite you to please subscribe to the channel and please hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future updates like these. All right, so let's get into this again. Top sustained winds on our storm is at 175 miles per hour. That is a Category 5 hurricane. It is going to probably end up being one of the top 5 strongest hurricanes on record. Pressure down to 906 millibars, not quite down to 892, which was Hurricane Wilma back in 2005. But again, a very historic storm to say the least on this thing. Again, I want to show you the progress of the storm. I'm going to switch over here to Radar Omega. One thing I do want to show you here, as before we lose the sunlight on this, is the stadium effect. Look at that nice stadium effect there of the storm as this continues to move off here toward the west. So look at this. But notice the track. It should be moving northward here, and it's still moving to the west here. Again, the further west it goes, this part of the island is going to diminish in the impact. So recall a couple of days ago, it looked like it was going to go dead center of the island and really kind of devastate the whole thing. So the further west it drifts, at least the far eastern part of the islands will diminish the impact on it. Now, it's still on the right side of the storm. You're still going to get storm surge and all that to go with it, but it is drifting a little bit further to the west of that plot. So we'll watch this track. We'll see how far more it goes to the west before it starts getting tugged on by the storm. Now, one of the things that may be happening here, because the storm is so powerful, wind up like a very big, like a spinning top, that influence of that trough that's supposed to bring it to the north might take it a little bit longer to do it. So I think it's going to make that turn. All the models are saying it's going to do that model, but it may be a little bit further to the west. And of course, that could have an impact on where it goes across Cuba and eventually getting into the Bahamas. So we got to watch the track very, very closely on this thing. So officially, here's what the track calls for. Again, kind of shows it going over Jamaica on the far end of that island and then going up toward the north and then going across Cuba and going into the Bahamas. Now, the Bahamas, they now have hurricane warnings up for them now as they're getting ready for what's going to come up that way. But again, it's in that cone of uncertainty there. If it favors that western drift, it'll be a little bit further to the edge of that screen. So let me go back to Radar Omega here. I'll kind of show you the plot here again, the official plot taking you here at, again, looking at 2 o'clock in the morning, 165 on that plot, and then showing that landfall here, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So sometime in the morning hours, it's making a landfall here as a Category 4 hurricane, or close to Category 5. It'll be depending on where it's at. My guess it'll still be a 5 as wound up as this thing is, but a very traumatic storm here. Let me go ahead and put this back over to the long wave infrared there so you can see the infrared image. Look at that. Very nice central dense overcast. It is very organized, and you know, definitely you can definitely see that it is to the left of where it should be moving to the north. You think it should be moving north. It's still drifting over to the west. Could be a wobble, but we'll watch it closely, and it could shift that track a little bit further to the west. So again, well, I'm going to go down the specifics on this thing real quick for you again. So we're talking about 175 mile per hour winds. It's still moving to the northwest at 3, even though that current track looks a little more westerly to me. Pressure down to 906 millibars right now. All right, so the hurricane force winds right now as it extends out right now. Currently looking at a lot of heavy rains, upwards of 15 to 30 inches of rain possible for the island of Jamaica as this thing comes in. It looks about pretty reasonable for me there. And again, you're looking at hurricane force winds only going about 30 miles from the center, and the tropical storm force winds 195 miles from the center. So about the same as what it was this morning. Now, as this thing begins to unwind, and we don't know when exactly it'll go through an eye wall replacement cycle, that wind field will expand eventually. Probably not until it gets on the other side of Jamaica, I would suspect, when it goes that way. But this thing is a tremendous thing. I also saw it was one of the driest air masses they were ever recorded in an eye on this thing. That just shows the sinking air in the middle of this thing. Again, hurricane is one big giant heat engine. It's bringing all the heat and it's evacuating. It's got a clear chimney. You know how you get smoke going through a chimney? That air is just going right out through the top. There's been reports of birds trapped in the eye. They can't get out. They can't fly out because it's just too volatile around that eye wall in there. So just a tremendous storm that hopefully will weaken to some degree before it clips the island of Jamaica. Again, that westward drift does help areas like Kingston, for example, to some degree, some level. We'll take a live look there at the Kingston Bay right there. Get this to come up. So you can see the surf, see the water that's still continuing to pound up in that area as it's continuing to deal with that consistent going on in there right now. So let me, hold on 1 second, I'm gonna paste my transform in there. There we go. Fix my little pot there for you. So again, not looking too bad there. In the quad chart here, and I gotta fix this one too because I didn't do this one as well. So let me fix this real quick. There we go. All right, so you can see all four of the cameras there. Now, Turks and Caicos, that's gonna be a couple days away before we kind of see it up that way. But there you kind of see no one's on the roads. You don't see anybody out there in Jamaica. Everybody's kind of, in the shelter, just kind of waiting for things. I see one gentleman there in the top left-hand of your screen there kind of looking on. But again, this is what we're looking at right now. Everything's just waiting to see right now, waiting. Things are going to really go downhill tonight and going in toward tomorrow morning. All right, so let's go talk about the graphics. Let's go talk about the latest model data on this here, and we'll kind of break it down. Again, we're going to show you what's driving this. We're waiting for this big trough. You see, all the models are going to the right. They're going to the right. It's just when it's going to make that nice turn to the right. We're still waiting on that. This is the ECENS and European model right there. Okay, so again, what's driving this is this big trough. We got this big driven trough that's coming down here. It's going to pick this storm up and yank it right on out. That initial weakness that was there hasn't grabbed it yet, really, just kind of waiting on it. There's that initial weakness across the southeast. Hasn't really tugged on it yet. And but this one coming down behind it for sure is going to tug on it. Okay, so I don't think it's going to continue to go west to where it's got a track that's going to get it close to Florida. At least none of the models right now are reflecting that. If it does that, that's going to be something completely unexpected. So I'm not expecting that this thing to continue that westward. It's going to get picked up on that northerly shear. When it does do that, by the way, I think the wind shear is going to increase over it as well. Especially as it gets kicked out over Cuba, because you got some very strong winds that are going to be coming across this thing because that digging trough right through there. So the wind shear should pick up and weaken this, but it looks like it's got a beeline from on the European model, taking it right over the Bahamas and going right up into Bermuda as well. Bermuda got hit earlier this year, and it's going right up the pike, going up that way. So again, nothing really kind of takes this from this course. So here's a little bit closer perspective here. The European's not getting the strength quite right on this, but it does show that hurricane coming up and making a landfall going in there, going in toward tomorrow morning. We'll turn my time back on here for you here. Again, that's showing like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's a little bit slower than what the official track is. The official track, this still shows it offshore at 2 o'clock, where the official track has it inland there. And then it comes right across, and then goes right across the Bahamas, and out it goes. So that's the European model. It's pretty much in line with everything else that we're seeing. Going up over the islands and then going on out to sea. Here's the latest rainfall total. Again, these are just off the chart, 20 plus inches. I see in rainfall totals, they say 15 to 30 is what the Hurricane Center is putting out. We're going to have landslides. We're going to have flooding. We're going to have a lot of problems. The power grid's going to take a major hit, obviously, especially on the west end of that island. The extreme eastern end, maybe not quite as bad because they're further down the coast. But again, everybody on this island is going to feel some impact, some form of problems with this storm. Okay, here is the wind profile again. Look at this very tight concentric storm here. This is the 12Z run on this hurricane model. The AFB storm here. Again, as this thing continues, this has a little more of a westerly drift on it too, kind of showing what's going on. This is on the far end of the island. See, at 115 mile per hour winds here. On the end of here, if you look right here on this part of the island, right there, that's 115 mile per hour winds coming up in there. That's sustained wind speeds as this thing comes on in. So again, it's just going to be catastrophic when this comes on across. Then it comes on across Cuba, and it's going to weaken it. And look at the wind profile. It more than doubles in size. That wind profile is going to really double in size once it starts unwinding itself a little bit compared to what we're seeing right now. So this compared to this morning's updates, a little bit further to the west, just slightly. And the fact that we're continuing to see that slight westerly drift here, I think kind of supports what this hurricane model here is showing. So again, looking at a little bit more of a drift to the west on that as it continues to move in that general direction. So, but eventually it's going to pull north. We're just got to wait and see when this thing finally gets itself together here. So there is that. Let me get this thing looping here again for you again here. Let me make sure it's going. There it goes. It's still got that general western direction. I just want to know how much further west is this thing going to go for this evening before it finally makes the honest to God, shift to the north, because it's darn sure not going down the center of that thing the way it's looking right now. You clearly see it's to the west of that line. So we'll be interested to see if it continues that. My guess is that the 11 o'clock advisory is probably going to shift this thing a little bit further this way, over to the tail end of the island. So Kingston is over here. So this will be off to the west of there. So watch that very closely. All right. So anyway, let's get back over to the satellite there. I love this shot here. This is the last of the daylight we got over there. Just that very concentric, very tight storm on this thing. And I got to admit that one forecast model, which had it going down to 900 millibars, got very close a few days ago. That was making a lot of social media runs there. Of course, the landfall, they was prospecting it a little bit further to the east of where it's going right now. But as far as the strength intensity, it did a pretty good job there. That's one area that when it comes to forecasting these things, the strength forecasting is still problematic. And this one is kind of a complicated flow with the cutoff high that's over the top of it, the very weak steering currents, and waiting for that big trough to come. It's all about a timing thing right now for this thing to get picked up. So again, we got a lot of people out there on the call. I got Johnny. Good to see you there, Johnny. Tyler, good to see you again here for today. And Rosson's out there as well. Good to see y'all. Again, appreciate you guys for the update. We had a good audience on from early this morning. I think we got close to 800, 900 views on it this morning for upgrade. And we've added a few new subscribers. So if you are new to the channel, let me welcome you on board here and say thank you very much and appreciate you for checking us out. Again, I like to kind of keep it to you straight. This is one you can hype it to death because it's a historic storm. The trick is deciding which ones do you hype to death, like this one, which is clearly an historic. The numbers speak for themselves. And which ones you do not. So that's what I try to keep an even keel here and don't treat every storm as the storm of the century. This one here, no, this is the top 5. This one is one you can go ahead and go to town on because this one's going to be quite devastating. And we see some of these videos, Montego Bay especially, oh my Lord, that's the tourist capital there in Jamaica on the end of that island. Boy, they're really going to take it hard on that end of the island. That's some pretty coastline up in there. So anyway, that is y'all's 5 o'clock update. Tomorrow, we'll do another morning update in the morning. I've got to take my daughter to get a military ID card tomorrow, so I will not be able to do wall-to-wall until I get back. And then we'll kind of play it by ear at that point. So, but you will get your morning update for the 8 o'clock hour for the morning. All right? All right, that's it for now. You guys take it easy. Again, say prayers for the folks in Jamaica. Maybe the prayers are helping to push this thing a little bit further to the west. Keep it from impacting Jamaica as much, and maybe we can get some wind shear to kick the snot out of this thing before it goes over Cuba. Let's hope and pray for that a little bit to see if we can get this thing to weaken some. All right, that's y'all's update. Y'all be good, stay safe, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. You guys have a great night.